Welcome students to this next lecture in the series of relations. Till now we have talked about the various properties of relations. Just to have a quick recap, the relation can be reflexive, irreflexive or non-reflexive depending upon whether each element of the set on which the relation is defined is related to itself or not. The relation can be symmetric if an element A, if it is related to B, implies that B is also related to A. If it is not so, then it becomes an asymmetric relation, and if A related to B and B related to A both can coexist if and only if A is equal to B, then it is an antisymmetric relation. Then we have a transitive relation where A related to B and B related to C implies that A related to C. In the previous lecture we saw certain numerical examples of how to verify the properties. Today, in this particular lecture, we are going to talk about four basic points. We have seen that there are three properties, the reflexive, symmetric and transitive properties. Related to those properties are the closures. Like when you have reflexive relation, similarly you can have reflexive closure. For symmetric relations, you have symmetric closure, and for transitive relations, you have transitive closure. Then we'll see the different methods of representing, different graphical methods of representing a relation. Under this, we have essentially four methods. One is the table method, then we have the arrow diagram, then we have the matrix method, and finally we have the digraph method. So out of this, table method and arrow diagram are of only theoretic interest in case of relations and are not used much. So we'll be not going into much detail of those table and arrow diagrams, but we'll be taking up matrices and diagrams in a little bit more detail. Then we have composition, where we can combine two relations. Right? This is another type of an operation. Just like you have studied the union, intersection, symmetric difference operations, the composition is another special operation that can be performed on two relations. And then we'll see how to perform the various relation operations by using the matrix and digraph. Right? Okay, let's proceed. Now, let's first talk about the reflexive closure. If you remember, reflexivity means a relation R is said to be reflexive if for every A belonging to the set A is related to A. Right? Now suppose we have a relation which by definition is not reflexive. Let us say we have a relation which by definition is not reflexive. Let us see this example. We have a set A is equal to 1, 2, 3, and we have defined a relation here 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2. Now I can see 1, 1 is here, but I cannot find 2, 2 and 3, 3. So by definition, the relation that is given over there is not a reflexive relation. So what is a reflexive closure? Please listen carefully. The reflexive closure is the smallest relation which contains the given relation and is reflexive. I'll repeat, a reflexive closure is the smallest relation containing the given relation which is reflexive in nature. Now, a very simple method of finding the reflexive closure is by taking the union of the given relation with the identity set. If you remember, what was identity set? Identity set is a pair of A comma A. That's all. Only these pairs are there such that A belongs to the set. So if a relation is not reflexive, what does it mean? It is missing certain A comma A pairs, and all the A comma A pairs are present in the identity relation. So if I take the union of the given relation and the identity relation, I will get the relation which will contain this relation and which will now be reflexive in nature. Why? Because all the missing A comma A pairs will come from the identity relation. So let's see an example over here. This example 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2. This is not a reflexive relation. If I try to write the identity relation for this set, I get 1, 1, 2, 2 and 3, 3. See, 1 1 is present over here also, but 2 2 and 2 3 are the two pairs which are present in the identity relation but which are not present in the given relation. So if I take the union of these two, the given relation and the identity relation, this 1 1 is present over here and 1 1 is present over here. So as the resultant is a set, so it will be taken only once and it will have 1 1 1 2. This 2 2 will come from the identity relation and this 3 3 will come from the identity relation. The remaining elements are coming from the original relation. So now this relation contains the original relation and this is now a reflexive relation. So this is called the reflexive closure of the given relation. Let's take another example. Now let's take an example where we cannot list the elements of the set. So you see over here, I have defined a relation on the set of natural numbers with the relation is x is related to y if x is less than y. So obviously, as I can say, 1 is not less than 1, 2 is not less than 2, 3 is not less than 3. So this relation obviously is not a reflexive relation. So how do I make the reflexive relation? Once again, I will union the identity relation. Now what is the union? What is the identity relation over here? Identity relation will be the set of pairs x comma x where x is a natural number. That means it will have the pairs 1 1 2 2 3 3 4 4 5 5 6 6 and so on. So if I take the union of the original relation and the identity relation, see for here x was less than y, for here x is equal to y. So if I take the union, what I will get is x is less than equal to y. So this is a reflexive closure. This is the smallest relation which contains my given relation and which is also reflexive. Similarly, we have the symmetric closure. If you remember, symmetricity was if A related to B, it implies that B should also relate to A. And please remember one more thing, if R was a set of ordered pairs A comma B such that A belongs to A and B belongs to B and A is related to B, right? So we defined R inverse. R inverse was the set of ordered pairs B comma A such that B belongs to B and A belongs to A and A was related to B. So the pairs are still the same, but the two elements of the pair will be interchanged. Right? Now can you see now what we are going to do? In case of the original relation, we have the A related to B. For symmetricity, we also need the B related to A pairs. So for every A comma B pair, a B comma A pair must be there. So how do we find the symmetric closure? Once again, what is a symmetric closure? Symmetric closure is the smallest relation which contains the given relation and which is also symmetric in nature. So how do I find the symmetric relation? I take the union of R and R inverse. So R inverse will have all the pairs of R but with the A and B elements interchanged. So when I will take union of these two, even if some AB and BA pairs are missing, those will come from R inverse and I will get a symmetric relation. Let's see an example. The set is given as ABCD and the relation is given as AB, AC, BA, BD. You can see AB is there, BA is there, AC is there, but CA is not there. BD is there, but DB is not there. CD is there, DC is there, and DD is there. So these are the two pairs whose reverse pair is not present in the given relation. Therefore, this is not a symmetric relation. Now, if I take the inverse of this relation, the inverse of this relation will be for AB, I will have BA. For AC, I will have CA. For BA, I will have AB and so on. So if I now take the union of R and R inverse, right? So now AB will come over here. This AB and this AB being the same, so they will be counted only once. BA and BA, they will be counted only once. AC comes from the original relation and CA comes from the inverse. AC and CA. BD comes from the original relation and DB comes from the inverse relation. So this relation is a symmetric relation. This is now the smallest relation which contains the original relation, and it is also symmetric in nature. Let's take another example. The symmetric closure of the relation R where x is less than y on the set of natural numbers. Now if I take R inverse, what will be R inverse? R inverse is the set of all the elements y comma x such that x is less than y, or you can say it is the set of all the elements where y is greater than x. Let's see again. The original relation says x is related to y if x is less than y. The R inverse will be y is related to x if x is less than y, right? So y is greater than x. So if I take the pairs, these are the pairs where the first element is smaller, and these are the pair where the first element is larger. You can see x is less than y. So that means these are the pairs where the first element is less than the second element. This is the pair where the first element is larger than the second element. So it will contain all the pairs. It will contain all the pairs where the element is less than, as well as either this is less than that or this is less than that. So that means x is not equal to y. I'll repeat. The original relation gives me those pairs where the first element is less than the second element. The inverse gives me those pairs where the y value is less than the x value. Now if I combine these two, so I will have all those pairs where either x is less than y or y is less than x. That means it will have all the pairs where x is not equal to y. X is either greater than y or x is less than y, right? So next is the transitive closure. Now transitive closure, as you remember, what was the transitive property? If A is related to B and B is related to C, it should imply that A relates to C. Now finding the transitive closure requires a little bit more work as compared to reflexive and symmetric closure. So we will discuss it later. We will discuss it today only, but we will discuss it a little bit later, right? Because the method of finding the transitive closure is a little bit different, right? Now let us see. Now let's talk about the different ways of representation of relations. We have already seen relations can be presented in two ways. One was when we list the relation pairs, and second was when we give the condition for the two elements to be related to each other. But we can also represent relations in four graphical manners, as I discussed, as I mentioned earlier. The first one was the table representation. Second is the arrow diagram. Now these two methods are of not much use as far as relations are concerned. So we'll just give them a brief intro and will not go into much detail of these. The third important method is the matrix representation, which is quite important. And finally, we have the digraph representation. Now, what is a digraph representation? Digraph representation is a directed graph, right? What it is, when I'll come to the graph representation, you'll get to know what it is. I'll make it clear. Now, first of all, let's talk about relation as an arrow diagram. Now, while representing the relation as an arrow diagram, what we do is we represent the two sets as ellipses. Let's understand it with the help of this example. Let us say that set P is given as 1, 2, 3, 4 and the set Q is given as A, B, C, D. So this is the set P and this is the set Q, and we list all the elements of P over here, all the elements of Q over here. Now what we do is we take the pairs. These are the relation pairs. Now these relation pairs, as you know, that relation is a set of ordered pairs. Ordered pairs means the ordering of the elements in a pair is fixed. The first element should come from the first set and the second element should come from the second set. So what we do is we take and we put arrows. We do not put simple lines, we put arrows to indicate that this is a relationship from this set to this set. See, 1A is there, so we draw a line, draw an arrow from 1 to A. We draw a line from 2 to A. We draw a line from 3 to A. So you can see over here, there is a line from 1 to A, there is a line from 2 to A, there is a line from 3 to A, right? Then 1B, 4B. So there is a line from 1 to B, there is a line from 4 to B, right? This arrow marks indicate that this is a relation from set P to set Q. Then we have 4C and 4D. So there's an arrow from 4 to C and there's an arrow from 4 to D. So these are the arrow diagrams, right? Next, while describing the relation as a table, we create a simple table, right? Once again, let's take an example. Let us say P is the set 1, 2, 3, 4. We define it here only. The Q is X, Y, Z, K. We define it over here. And then wherever there is a match, 1X, that means 1 is related to X. So on the intersection of these two, we put a X over here. 1Y, we put a X over there. There is no pair as 1Z or 1K, so we leave them as it is. Similarly, 2Z, so the intersection of 2 and Z, we put a cross. 3Z, we put a cross over here. 4K, we put a cross over here. Right? So this is quite simple relationship presented as a table. The matrix method is quite similar to this one, but it is better in the sense that the matrices can be handled, matrices can be used for further mathematical calculations and other operations. Now, how do we represent the relation as a matrix? Now say for example, if P is equal to A1, A2, A3 up to AM and Q is equal to B1, B2, B3 up to Bn, right? Let us say these are the two non-empty sets which contain certain elements. Now very important thing, for representing these non-empty sets should be there, because how are you going to represent an empty relation, right? So let me also explain this with the help of an example. Let us say the set P is given as 1, 2, 3 and the set Q is given as, let us say, A, B, C. And let us say the relation R is defined as 1A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 3C, right? Let us say this is the relation that is given to us, containing m elements and n elements. So for there, m is equal to 3 and n is equal to again 3. So R is a relation from P to Q. Then the relation R can be represented by a m into n matrix. So in our case, it will be a 3 by 3 matrix. So let us say 1, 2, 3, and let us say A, B, C. Right? You want, you can write it. Otherwise, you can just simply omit it. No problems. So this is. Now, whenever, just like what we did in case of a table diagram, 1A, so on the intersection of 1 and A, I'll put a 1. 2B, on the intersection of 2 and B, I'll put a 1. 2C, I'll put a 1 over here. 3A, I'll put a 1 over here. 3C, I'll put a 1 over here. And for the remaining positions, what I'll do is I'll simply put a 0 over here. So this becomes the matrix representation of this relation. This is called the adjacency matrix. This is called the relation matrix. This is called the Boolean matrix, right? There are three names. We can call it the adjacency matrix, or we can call it the relation matrix, or we can call it the Boolean matrix. Right? So this is how a relation is represented with the help of a matrix. Let us see certain examples. Let us say P is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, Q is equal to A, B, C, D. So this is the matrix relation. As you can see, 1A, so the intersection of 1 and A, I put a 1 over here. 1B, 1C, I put a 1 over here, I put a 1 over here. 2B, 2C, 2D. 2B, 2C, 2D. So wherever we have a relation pair, we put a 1, otherwise we put a 0. Right? Another example, simple example, but in this case, what I have done is, I have made the size of the matrix as 4 by 3. The number of elements in A is 4 and the number of elements of B is 3. Now please remember, you can also create a relation on the same set. And let us say a relation is being created on the set A, and the number of elements in the set is n. So you will have a n by n matrix. You will have a square matrix if you are creating a relation on a single set. Right, as you can see over here. Now this example is the reverse example. Now I have the relation and I have given you the relation matrix. Now I am asking you to find out the relation pairs. Right? We know that as it is a matrix that is defined on a single set, it will be a 4 by 4 matrix. So that means it will be an element 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will be the 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I take this element, there is an element on the intersection of 1 and 1. So I'll have a pair at 1, 1. There's an intersection at 1 and 3. So I'll have an element 1, 3. So this is the first element of the pair, and this will give me the second element of the pair. Similarly, this will be the 1, 4. This element is at the intersection of 2 and 2. So I'll have 2, 2 over here. This is at the intersection of 3 and 2. So I'll have a 3, 2 pair over here. So these are all the pairs. So this way you can convert the relation matrix into relation pairs also. Now we can use relation matrices to identify relation properties also. Right? See, if the relation is a reflexive relation, so obviously the diagonal elements are going to be 1. Why? Because let us say this is defined on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously 1 is related to 1, 2 is related to 2, 3 is related to 3, and 4 is related to 4, as you can see over here also. So if you have a reflexive relation, so it will have a 1 in every position on its main diagonal. In case of irreflexive relation, the main diagonal will be made up of all zeros. There will not be any 1 over here. Right? If the diagonal has some 1s and some zeros, so it will be a non-reflexive relation. If you want to check the symmetric relation, so what I can do is I can just draw a line over here, and if this particular upper triangular matrix and lower triangular matrix, if the upper, it is not necessary that these elements will be 0 only. This is just the matrix for this example. So but if I draw a line through the main diagonal and the upper triangular matrix is the same as the lower triangular matrix, what it means is, अगर मैं इस मैट्रिक्स को इस डायगोनल के बेसिस पे फोल्ड कर दूं, so the elements should match exactly, then it is called a symmetric. If Mij is equal to Mji. What is an anti-symmetric? If it is an anti-symmetric relation, so if Mij is equal to 1, should indicate Mji is equal to 0 for I is not equal to j. That means if A is related to B, then B should not be related to A until unless A is equal to B. So this is how you can use the relation matrices to check for the various properties. Now, there is another way. You can also represent a relation as a digraph, directed graph. Now a graph is a collection of nodes and edges, also called vertices and edges. Right? Now edges can be directed or undirected, depending on whether they are made up of simple lines or they are made up of arrows. So if it is made up of arrow, then the graph is called a directed graph, and that is what we use for representing the relation. right? It's pretty simple. Say for example, this is the set and the relation. Now one important thing, for representing the relation as a graph, the relation must be defined on a single set. Relations defined on multiple sets cannot be represented with the help of a digraph. Now this is the set 1 2 3 4, so I'll use the elements of the set to make the 4 nodes. This 1 2 3 and 4 are the nodes. Please understand, the positioning of the nodes does not matter. Let me create this once again over here. Let me put 1 over here, 2 over here, and let us say 3 over here, and let us say 4 over here. The positioning of the nodes does not matter. Now let us see, there is a pair 1 comma 2, so there will be an edge from 1 to 2 and it will be a directed edge. This 2 comma 4, 2 comma 4 means there will be an edge from 2 to 4. You can see it over here also, 2 to 4, this edge is there. Then 1 comma 2, this edge is there. There is 2 comma 2, so 2 comma 2, that means there is an edge from 2 to 2, so that is indicated by a loop, edge starting at 2 and ending at 2. 3 2, that means I'll put a edge over here. 4 1, I'll put an edge over here. 4 3, I'll put an edge over here. So this is an example of a directed graph that is created for a given relation, right? Then it's another example, r is equal to 1 1 1 2. You can use those pairs to create the relation. So the only thing to keep in mind is the elements of the set, they'll be used to create the vertices, and then the pairs of the relation, they'll be used to create the edges, and the edge will be created from element this to element this, so it will be a directed edge, right? So this way you can create the digraph for a given relation. Now let me leave you with a homework. Don't worry, the lecture is not yet finished, but let me give you a homework. Point number 1, as I showed how you can identify reflexive, irreflexive, symmetric, asymmetric, anti-symmetric relation from the matrix. Now you will tell me how to identify relation properties from the digraph. Second, if you are given a digraph, how can you list the relation pairs and make the matrix, right? So this is your homework. I suggest for this particular thing, what you do, you take at least 5 to 6 examples of relations, you create the digraph, then you create the pairs, then you create the matrices. So practice them. I'll give certain questions in the next test. So let's proceed further. Now we have seen certain operations on relations. We have seen how relations can be we can operate union, intersection, difference, symmetric difference on relation. This composition is yet another operation that can be performed on relations. For this we need two relations, right? Let us understand what a composition means. Let us say I have a relation which is A comma B pairs, right? Where A is related to B. I have a relation S which is, let us assume, B comma C pairs, such that B is related to C under the relation S. then the composition of R and S is the A comma C pair such that A is related to B and B is related to C. Right? Let A, B and C be sets. Let R be a relation from A to B and S be a relation from B to C. Right? That means R is a subset of A cross B and S is a subset of B cross C. Then R and S can give rise to a relation from A to C indicated by R composition S and defined by A composition C if for some B we have A related to B and B related to C. Right? There must exist an element B which is related to A as being its second element and which is related to C as being as the first element. Now, the composition R is also called the R square. Similarly, R cube is nothing but R square composition R and so on. So R to the power 4 will be R cube composition R and so on. Let's see certain examples. Let's take this. If A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, let it be the set. B is the set PQRS, C is the set XYZ. And we have defined certain relations over here. The relation R is defined from A to B and the relation S is defined as B to C. Right? The composition of this will be, now how do we find the composition? Let's do one thing. Let's solve this question. Let us first list all the pairs of R. 1 comma P, 1 comma R, 1 comma S, 2R, 2S, 3P, 4S. Let us list all the pairs of S, PX, PZ, QY, RY, RZ, SX, SZ. Now in order to find R composition S, so what I will do is I will take the first element. Now please pay attention to the procedure. The procedure will remain the same irrespective of what composition you have to find. If I have to find out R composition S, so what will I do? I will take the first pair from R. I will take the first element of R and I will check whether the second element of this pair is being used as the first element in the relation S. Yes, I can see P over here and P over here. So this will combine to this and this. So I'll get the pair 1 comma X and I'll get the pair 1 comma Z. So I'll take the first element and I will check whether the second element of this pair is being used as the first element in the other relation. If it is, I will take the first element from first relation and second element from second relation and I'll get the composition pairs. Similarly, let's take this pair 1R. If I take 1R, then what I will do, I will check R, is it being used as the first element? Yes, it is. I can see RY and RZ. So I'll take 1 from here, Y from here. So I'll get 1 comma Y. I'll take 1 from here, Z from here. I'll get 1 comma Z. Right? I already have 1 comma Z, but I suggest at this step, you just simply go on listing the pairs. Next, 1S, I can see SX and SZ. So it will give me 1 comma X and 1 comma Z. Irrespective of whether it is giving me duplicated pairs, do not try to focus on that right now. Now 2R. 2R is going to give me 2Y and 2Z. 2Y and 2Z. 2S is going to give me 2X and 2Z. 2X and 2Z. 3P. 3P is going to give me 3X and 3Z. 4S is going to give me 4X and 4Z. Now from this list, I will take the pairs 1X, 1Z, 1Y. Now 1Z I have already taken, 1X so I have already taken, so I will not take this pair, I will not take this pair, I will not take this pair. So I will take 2Y, 2Z and 2X. 2Y, 2Z and 2X. Again 2Z I have already taken, so I will not take this pair. 3x 3z 4x 4z, 3x 3z 4x 4z should have been there. Okay, there will be another pair 4z, right? So this is the relation composition. Yet another mathematical example, you can study that on your own. So you can stop the video right here and you can study the mathematical example that is given over here. Now we can also understand the composition in the terms of arrow diagram, right? You can see, let us say R1 and R2 are the two relations that are defined on X, Y and Z. Now this arrow diagram is showing me the relation R1, and this is showing me the relation R2. This is R1 and this is R2. Now for finding the composition, now 4 is related to A and A is related to 1. So 4 is related to A, which is related to L. So this 4L gives me one pair. 4 is related to B and B is related to L. This also gives me the same pair 4L, and so on. So you can take these two and you can traverse all the possible paths. From 4 to A to you can go L or you can go to N. So 4L, 4N. You can either take this path 4L or you can take this path 4N. You can take 4L or you can take 4M. This will give you this pair and so on. Right? So this is how you can find out the composition. Right. See, this is an interesting example. What we are trying to do is, we are trying to find out the composition of R and R inverse. Right. So this is the relation and this is the inverse of the relation. The inverse of the relation will have the similar arrows, but their directions will be opposite. So this is how you will find out the composition. Now, before we can move on to the next topic, where we try to perform the various matrix operations with the help of the matrices, the relation operations with the help of matrices, we have to understand the two operations. One is called the join operation and the other is called the meet operation, right? Now, the join operation, denoted by this, is basically a pairwise OR operation. I believe you people are also studying Boolean algebra, logic design. So there you must have studied two basic operations. One is the OR operation and the other is the AND operation. Now this join operation is similar to your OR operation. So that means essentially means the 0 join 0 is equal to 0, 0 join 1 is equal to 1, 1 join 0 is equal to 1 and 1 joins 1 is equal to 1. So this is similar to your OR operation. So this will be used for the matrix operations, right? I'm not going to the details over here only. I'll use them in the further slides. Now the meet operation, which is denoted by this symbol, is similar to your AND operation. That means 0 meets 0 is equal to 0, 0 meets 1 is equal to 0, 1 meets 0 is equal to 0 and 1 meets 1 is equal to 1. So this is similar to your AND operation, right? So now let us see how we can use the join and meet operations to perform the relation operations with the help of matrices. Right? Now, if MR and MS be the matrices of the relation R and S, right? Suppose I have two relations R and S which have been represented with the help of their corresponding matrices. Now, I can find the matrix of union, intersection, composition, inverse, everything. How do I do that? The matrix of R union S is given by using the join operation. The join operation. That means 0 join 0 is equal to 0, 0 join 1 is equal to 1 join 0 is equal to 1 and 1 join 1 is equal to 1. Similarly, the matrix of R intersection S is given by the MR meets MS. These are the pairwise operations, element-wise operations. It will become more clear when I take the next slide, which will have a numeric example. So 0 meets 0 is equal to 1 meets 0 is equal to 0 meets 1 is equal to 0, and 1 meets 1 is equal to 1. For performing the composition operation, you will have to perform the matrix multiplication. And while performing the multiplication, you will have to keep in mind, when I perform matrix multiplication, there both multiplication and addition operations are performed. So the multiplication operation, the addition and multiplication operations are performed. So the multiplication operation will be performed by the meet operation, and the addition operation will be performed by the join operation. The matrix of R inverse is given by the transpose of matrix, right? Now let us see numeric examples. Let us say this is the set 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have defined two relations R as 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2 with the matrix this, and the relation S with the matrix S. Now how do I perform the union operation? For the purpose of union operation, we are using the join operation. Now this is a element wise join. That means this element will be joined to this element to provide me this element. So 1 join 0 is equal to 1, 1 join, right? So then 1 join 0 will give me this 1, then 1 join 1 will give me this 1, and 0 joins 1 will give me this one. Similarly, this 0 and this 0, let me change the color to show it to you better. This 0 and this 0 will give me this 0. This 0 and this 0 will give me this 0. This 0 and this 0 will give me this 0. 0 and 1 joined will give me 1, and 1 and 0 joined will give me 1, and so on. Similarly, the intersection operation is the meet operation. 1 meets 0 will give me this 0. 1 meets 0 will give me this 0. 1 meets 1 will give me this 1, and 0 meets 1 will give me this 0, and so on. You can convert, see over here, what I have done is I have taken the union, and then I can convert the union back into pairs, right? Or you can do is you can verify the answer by you taking the union of these two relations on your own. Similarly, you can also check the intersection. The matrix of R composition S is given by multiplication of MR and MS. You have to multiply this by this. Please remember, for multiplication of the two, there is a condition that the number of columns in the first matrix must be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. This is not a problem over here, because here the matrices are defined on the same set. So they are both square matrices of the same size. So that is not a problem over here. But if you are having matrices of relations which have been defined on different sets, then you have to keep that in mind. So you perform the multiplication of this matrix with this matrix, and you get this matrix, which will give you the relation composition pairs. For the purpose of finding the inverse matrix, you have to find the transpose. We know what a transpose is, when rows become columns and column becomes rows. So this is the transpose, and that will give me the pairs of R inverse. Similarly, I have given another example over here. Here I have tried to find out R composition S. I have tried to find out R composition R. Remember, R composition R means the matrix MR will be multiplied to matrix MR, and S composition R means matrix S will be multiplied to matrix R. I am not going into details of this. You can pause the video over here, solve the example on your own, or you can study it over here. You can see what is happening, right? Now, we left out transitive closure earlier. Now, transitive closure we left out earlier because for finding out transitive closure, we need to use the composition operation either directly or by using the matrices. Now, let me again repeat. What does transitivity means? A related to B and B related to C should imply that A is related to C. A relation that is not satisfying this condition is called a non-transitive relation, and What is a transitive closure? A transitive closure is the smallest relation that is transitive and which contains the given relation. Now, for the purpose of finding the transitive closure, say for example, there is a set A on which a relation is being defined and the cardinality of the set A is n. What does it mean? Let us say A has n number of elements. Then for finding the transitive closure, you will have to find out, you have the relation R, you will have to find out R square. What is R square? R square is R union R. What is R cube? R square union R, and so on up to R to the power n. And then you will have to take the union of R, all these relations. So once you take the union of all those relations, then you will get the transitive closure. Or what you can do is you can create these matrices. How can you create R square? You can create R square by MR multiplied by MR, matrix multiplication. How can you create R cube? You can have MR square multiplied by MR, right? That will give you the MR, the relation matrix for R cube and so on. And then you can perform the join operation of all these. So that will give you the transitive closure. Let's take a numeric example for this. Let us see a numeric example of how to find out the transitive closure by using the relations. Let us say this, I have a relation A, I have a set A which has 4 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have this relation. Now I want to find out the transitive closure of this relation. Now let's first check whether it is transitive or not. If you see, I have the pairs 1, 2 and I have the pair 2, 1. So A, B and B, C. But I do not have a 1, 1 pair. So this is a non-transitive relation. Now how do you find the transitive closure for that? First of all, there will be two methods. One is the direct method by using union, the other is the matrix method. If you want to use the direct method, you will have to use the cardinality of A is equal to 4. So transitive closure will be R union R square union R cube union R to the power 4. Now what is R square? It is R composition R. What is this? This is R square composition R. What is R4? R cube composition R. And once you take the union of all these, you will get the transitive closure. Or what you can do is, you can use the matrix method. You have the MR, you can create the relation matrix MR, then you can multiply it by itself to get the relation matrix MR square. Then you can multiply it once again with the relation matrix MR to find the MR cube. Then you can multiply it once again by MR to get the relation matrix MR4. Now once you have all the 4 matrices, you can perform the join operation by using Boolean algebra and you will get the transitive closure. You can verify transitive closure finding by both the methods. You can verify that both of them will come as same. That's all for today. If you have any problems or queries, you can either post them in the discussion forum or we can discuss in the next session. Now one thing that I want to discuss over here before I leave you is that I am seeing that not many people are using the discussion forum. See, discussion forum is an excellent way of you to put up your queries and see what the queries other people might be having. There might be certain things that you might have missed, which will be covered if you go through the different queries that are asked in the discussion forum. And one more thing, it is a discussion forum. Why are you waiting for me to answer all the queries? Let me repeat once again. I want all of you to actively participate in the discussion forum. If a student has posted a query, try to respond to that query. See, if I am always looking at what the queries and what the replies are on the discussion forum. If I find out that the reply that you have given has some mistake, I'll give you the correct response so that not only the student who raised the query will get the benefit, but you also will get the benefit because your confusion will be cleared. So let me see a more active participation in the discussion forum, right? Till the next time, thank you.